Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikita and I bring useful tips and tricks that can help you take a step closer to the industry. In today's video, we will be talking about RRK interviews, which is not just a coding round. It's not even just another question where you share what are your weaknesses. The RRK, or commonly known as role related knowledge, sounds like a pirate making some noise RRK, but companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Meta, they consider these rounds to know that, hey, you are a nice candidate, but can you actually do a job? So, if you are hired for the given position, you are put into complex scenarios, will you be able to navigate through those scenarios by actually understanding the problem and also confidently finding solutions that are holistically thought about? So, in today's video, we will not be just talking about what are those commonly asked RRK interview questions. We are simply not going to talk about what are those common mistakes to avoid. By the way, I plan to share at least top three common mistakes that candidates usually do in RRK interviews at the end of this video. So make sure you stick throughout the video. But in today's video, we will also be focusing on how do you actually answer RRK interviews that will help you get shortlisted for a given role. So, before I get started, please make sure you're capturing notes. And most importantly, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so by clicking on the subscription button below. That definitely motivates me to bring more such useful videos for you in the future. All right, so let's deep dive into understanding what are RRK interviews about and what exactly they try to assess in a candidate appearing for a RRK interview. RRK interview is like the Goldilocks zone where RRK stands for role related knowledge. And if system design interviews are for software engineers and product managers have product sense kind of interviews, then RRK is the home pitch for TPMs. So this is your turf to showcase that you actually know the job of TPM well. So make sure you're well prepared for this type of interview and you actually confidently answer the interview questions that will impress the interviewer. Now, what is the special thing about RRK interviews is, firstly, you cannot be too technical. You're actually not coding a compiler, but you cannot also be too high level, which means that you just are updating a spreadsheet. You need to have a balance between both, which means you actually are updating a document or you're communicating to someone on how compilers can be built or should be built or were built based on the state of the project and also aligning to the business priorities so you do justice to both the worlds, which is the technical engineering world as well as the business priorities for which the product or the software is being built for. Now next, let's look into what are those three areas they will be assessing you for in RRK interviews. Round one is the technical judgment, which means do you actually understand the complexity of how the systems are built? Are you able to make decisions on what system or what technical decision needs to be made based on the system requirements? This is what exactly they will be looking into in a technical judgment round. All right. The second thing that they will be assessing you for RRK interviews is the program sense. Basically, this is the bread and butter of what you do. This is the salt to your recipes. So make sure you take these questions very seriously and you're thinking from a 360-degree perspective to actually impress your interviewer. Now, in this particular scenario, the interviewer is trying to assess your ability to understand vague scenarios and then turn them into magical solutions, ship those, and make the company successful. Imagine a kind of question that they will be asking you is there is a legacy system which has 50,000 users, and now they have a new system where they want to migrate all the users. Now, go, how will you be actually navigating in this type of scenario? Now, the interviewer has not provided you a lot of information like, has the new system been built? Is your job to only migrate the users or also build the new legacy system? Land that, are there any complications, or are there any other challenges that you need to be aware of while you're migrating the users from system A to system B? So, like I told you in the technical judgment, again, here the same tip applies. Make sure you're asking as many clarifying questions as if you're just talking to your friend who asks you, like, hey, I want to migrate my users from one system to another. How do I go about it? You would be asking, what is the state of the system right now? Is it already built? How much time do I have? Do I have to migrate all the users in one go, or I can actually roll these out in phases? And then there will be more such clarifying questions that you would be asking before actually giving a solution to your friend. And similar thing applies in interviews as well. So use a framework here, which is the STAR framework. In one of my previous videos, I did a detailed walkthrough on how you should be using STAR format to answer interviews. So if you missed watching that video, shamelessly, I'm going to link that video in the description below. Go watch that video right after this video. But in interest of today's video, as we are talking more about program sense, the first thing is understanding the situation, asking clarifying questions. The second thing is understanding your tasks, like what exactly are you in charge of in the given scenario. The third thing is actions that you will be taking as you're given certain tasks to execute. And lastly, what is the result or the end outcome of the actions that you took, and how does that relate back to the situation? So impress your interviewer by first giving them an understanding that you are trying to understand the question from a 360-degree perspective. Second thing is, try to make sure that you are showing clarity in terms of what exactly you are supposed to do, and also understand who others are a part of this project, and that would impact the situation or the solution for which you're trying to do the job for. And lastly, when you're talking about results, make sure those are data driven. Talk about as many statistical information or outcomes that you can relate with the problem statement, from which success of the problem that you were put into will be defined for. Now, the third bucket that they will be assessing you for is the crisis management bucket. Now, this is where they put everything on fire. They are going to try to see if you actually become panicky or nervous if you're put into a fire-like scenario, or you are able to assess and compare between alternatives to ensure that the problem doesn't become worse, but you are able to actually heal the problem to an extent, or you're actually able to, like, come up with better solutions to be able to address that particular problem. Now, for example, your interviewer says that we need to firefight for a situation. There was a launch that was supposed to happen in 2 weeks' time, but the engineering manager came back and said that they identified a bug in the system, which will take at least 4 weeks to fix. But the marketing says that they've already announced this launch, and if the launch doesn't happen, then it might impact the company's reputation to an extent. How would you go about this? As I have been insisting in the first two buckets, ensure you're asking as many clarifying questions. As the interviewer says that the feature was supposed to go live in 2 weeks' time, first try to understand by working with the engineering manager what this type of bug is. Can that be fixed by having multiple resources, or this is a limited resource project, you cannot bring in more resources? Also see if you need to showcase your discussion with the marketing team, where you have actually tried to see if the timelines can be negotiated a little bit. What happens if you push on the timelines? How much is it impacting from a company's reputation standpoint? By the way, this doesn't mean that you're seeing that, can I harm the company's reputation by some extent, but you're actually trying to assess the implications of pushing this deadline further, and then you're trying to find solutions in that given scenario. So don't just answer these type of questions saying that I will pressurize the engineers to work day and night. Obviously, come on. I mean, if you're working with a Gen Z team, then definitely they're not going to like you if you're doing this in your actual job. And even for your interviewer, if you tell them that you don't have empathy towards your team, then that might be a red flag for you, and that might just put the interviewer off towards you. So the way you would be actually answering this question is, can we actually go ahead towards the launch? Can we proceed with the launch without having that feature? Or can we keep that feature in a beta stage? Or, can we find alternatives that we can provide to the customers in the meantime to engage with them? And maybe this feature can be launched after that. And to come to the best solution possible, you would be asking clarifying questions in this direction, which means you would say that, was that specific feature announced for the customers? Can this feature be launched in a beta stage, or is it important? Maybe the feature was already in beta stage. So you would ask, like, is this feature already launched in beta stage? Are there any other alternate features that can be launched as a replacement for this? All right. So this brings me to the end of the three areas where they will be assessing you for a TPM interview. The first one was technical judgment. The second one was program sense. And the third was fire burning in the room, how well you're able to navigate different difficult scenarios and come to conclusion to address those. But remember, at the start of the video, I also shared what are those three mistakes you should be avoiding if you are appearing for an RRK interview. Come, let's talk more about it in the next couple of minutes. So, the first thing was one of the most common mistakes I did in my early career stage while I was interviewing for certain roles is I was always referring to my past experiences about how we solve for something as a team. But then later I realized that this is my story and I need to be the hero of my story. So always answer your questions as, to address this situation, I did this. To deal with this particular scenario, I was actually doing this. So basically, you show that you were the lead of the project from a project manager slash program manager's lens. The second mistake that you should be avoiding is just don't be a framework robo, which means usually it's actually impresses the interviewers when you say that you documented something, you actually created racy charts and things like that. But if you are in a fire like scenario, if you tell the interviewer the first action or the task you picked up was documenting something, that might just go off against you, because if there is fire in the room, they basically want you to turn it off before you actually get into documentation. But remember, you also talk about documentation towards the end of the fire, because this is where you're showing that you are also thinking about how to avoid similar situations in the future. And the third thing that you need to keep in mind is, don't be a tech faker. Like, if you don't understand a particular technical system or you don't understand a technical concept, don't just fake it in your interview because you just read about it 5 minutes before your interview. If you come to an interview with me and you just say, like, AI, Kubernetes, and blockchain in the same sentence, I am going to come to your home and uninstall your Wi Fi. So make sure you're not faking, at least when I'm your interviewer. All right. Lastly, RRK is scary. It might just make you feel nervous because obviously there is fear of being judged throughout the interview. But ensure, if you understand what exactly the interviewer is trying to assess you for, then you also know what exactly you need to provide to them, because I'm sure you are very good problem solvers. If you enjoyed watching this video and if you found these tips helpful, please make sure you hit that subscription button harder than you can, and share this video to wide network of audiences who might benefit from this video. Until the next video, take care. Bye bye.